I found sperm on my wedding dress. I don't know who left it, my fiancé or his brother. I would really like it to be a joke. I spent today walking around the shops, drinking hot chocolate and eating cookies with my sister. I wouldn't believe anyone if they said it happened, so I wouldn't be surprised if no one believes me. It's stupid, it's disgusting, and I'm still shocked. Today I went for Christmas shopping with my sister 18F. I 27F live with my fiancé 26M. I will call him James. So he was at home all day. He works in the healthcare sector, so he works 12 hours a day for 4 days. Then gets 4 days off, then 12 hours at night for 4 days and so on. Today was one of his days off, so his brother 21M, I'll call him Dan, came to visit, and they spent the day together. Usually they don't spend time together. James is fond of computers and games, while Dan is more immersed in football than anything else. I'm not saying this in a pejorative sense. I understand Dan. Formula 1 is my life. Cake Cheburek. They're just very different people and have never been close. So it was very nice that today they spent time together. While I was walking with my sister, I came home around 8 o'clock in the evening, having dinner with my sister and doing all the Christmas shopping. My Uncle Ray is a tailor, so he fitted the dress to the figure and sent it to our house while I was away. James and I don't really adhere to the tradition of not seeing a wedding dress until the wedding, so he was at home to take the dress from Ray and check if everything was okay. I really thought everything was okay, because James texted me. When my uncle came and sent me a photo of the dress, we were both very excited. However, when I got home, Dan had already left, and James was a little drunk, which, in my opinion, is perfectly normal. He rarely drinks and rarely sees his brother. The groom told me that the dress is very beautiful and he can't wait to see me in it. I decided to try on the dress to check if it fits properly. I unbuttoned the zipper, examined it and found a strange mark on my chest. The upper part is something like a corset, and there was the same dried stain on it. I've seen enough sperm. I know it's her. I don't know who she is. I'm not sure I care at all. I'm just disgusted. I don't want to touch the dress. I'm so humiliated that I don't want to tell anyone about it. I don't even know how to convey it to James. I doubt it was him, and it gets worse, because he doesn't have such a close relationship with his brother. And this is the only person who could pull the pod on his brother's bride's clothes to dirty the dress. If only there were no other men in our house. I can't spoil the relationship with relatives until they have become relatives. Dan is a golden child. He plays football for the team of their hometown. He's my fiancé's younger brother, but I also can't afford a new dress. I found it on sale for $215. Without a discount it would cost as much as half of my salary. What the hell should I do? For LL, someone ejaculated on my damn wedding dress. I can't afford a replacement, and I have no idea how to approach this issue. It was either my fiancé or his brother. I definitely won't marry James without finding out who did it. I really doubt that it's him, but there are still some doubts. Some stupid part of me hopes that someone broke in and decided to spoil my dress. What interesting fantasies you have, young lady P/P. I want to talk to James. I just don't know what to say. Someone came on my wedding dress. Wasn't it you? Sounds completely ridiculous. I'm almost sure I should just say, there's a strange stain on my dress, and I don't know what it could be. It definitely didn't happen in my uncle's store. There was only him, his husband and several workers. I received a photo of the dress from my fiancé on Snapchat after it was delivered. There was no stain. TS comment: Uncle has a small family business. There is only him, his husband who only deals with paperwork, and 4 other people, all women. Also James sent me a photo right after it came. Ray held it in his hands. So I really don't think it was someone from his uncle's store. Bubba Chanel, his husband who only does paperwork. It's not a job to come on a dress, but someone else, not a lady, did it. It will drive me crazy until the culprit is found. 1. I asked James what he thought about the dress. He said he liked it and that he couldn't wait to see me go to the altar in it. Nothing suspicious, he was just excited. 2. I asked James how his evening with his brother went. I don't think anyone suggested doing it, but I thought that if something happened and he knows about it, he will tell me. We went through a lot together and we both know that honesty is the best policy. He said that their evening went as good as possible. These are his words, not mine. Dan drank a lot, but it's quite normal for him. He usually drinks as much as he can stuff into himself, then he gets sick, then he drinks more. Fortunately, in our toilet he didn't wet and didn't vomit. Wonderful young man, just wonderful. P/P. They talked. James told him about his new job, and Dan eventually told him about the girls with whom he communicates at the moment. This conversation lasted about 2 hours. Unfortunately, it matters, remember. 3. I took a screenshot of a photo of my dress. I'm a concept artist. Mostly I draw the ideas of a director/costume artist/decorators. I draw the way I interpret the location/character/scene. Although I usually draw locations, so I know a lot about Photoshop. I managed to tinker enough with filters and adjustments to make sure that the dress was 100% clean when it was delivered. Splashes are not visible in the photo. And it's really splashes. 4. Then I mentioned that I was going to try on the dress, but there was something on it, and I didn't know what exactly. I wanted James to take a look so he could help me understand what it was and where I could take the dress to the dry cleaners. Even before he saw it, James was worried and already asked if Ray and his husband knew someone who could help. 5. I asked James if Dan had seen the dress in person. The answer was affirmative. James told his brother where the dress was, and Dan went to look at him while James was talking on the phone with our local Indian diner, ordering dinner for them. The only plus is that he left me some non-cheese bread. 6. I showed James a stain, and it was instantly thrown into the paint. I had never seen him so angry before. Some offensive words were said that I would not like to repeat. He talked a lot about what Dan was like in the past, and I probably won't share this information either, unless it becomes extremely important. Conclusion: Dan came on my fucking wedding dress. Splashes look like sperm, the substance looks like sperm, and I still regret that I survived after I did it. Smells like sperm. I touched this shit with my bare hands. I really don't know what else to say. There was a whole conversation between me and James. I'm too exhausted to remember him exactly, so I'll say briefly, he's furious, and I'm furious. I don't even know if the wedding will take place. In general, the groom told me that the way Dan spoke about the women he communicated with was disgusting. At the moment there are 4 of them, and he leads them all by the nose because he wants to get laid. It turns out that Dan is an ardent misogynist. James said that he really sounds like he thinks he deserves sex. Men who are just skinny like James don't deserve beautiful women, and apparently James doesn't deserve me. Dan says he's in great physical shape, conventionally attractive, he has a good job. So women should fight each other to get his favor. He thinks he has the right to increased attention from attractive women, including me. I feel like I'm about to be vomited when I type this. I met this idiot when he was 14, some very petty and evil part of me wants to write to these women and explain what he really is and how he leads them by the nose. I won't lie, Dan is in great shape, he has a relief abs, and he trains every day without exception. But such a body and such a lifestyle is not what attracts me. To be honest, I would prefer to eat delicious food and play video games. Obviously, Dan is incredibly jealous that James managed to pick up someone like Callie me. LOL. I've always had an incredibly effective metabolism. I don't do sports, but I eat quite healthy food and walk a lot. My parents live in a small village, so I go for a walk with them to take beautiful photos and eat cheese chips and a cake from a small cafe at the end of the walk. Hehehe. That cafe cooks wonderful brownies, and cheese on chips is real cheese, not a plastic likeness. Meanwhile, James does not make any effort to improve his physical fitness, but at the same time manages to meet me, who visibly makes so much effort to be beautiful. I do not try. I do not make up or dress up. I have not used foundation since the pandemic began. James is in uniform mainly because he rides a motorcycle, and this, oddly enough, requires a lot of straining the thigh muscles. Dan allegedly always believed that James and I are in different leagues, because I have better grades and I'm in the best physical shape, and that I'll break up with him and move on as soon as I realize that I'm wasting time. No shit like that. James doesn't care how fat/thin I am. When we met, I had a terribly low weight, but my ass and breasts were always too big. I'm cursed by my mother's hourglass figure. My back hates this part of my inheritance. I know I talk a lot. Most of what I wrote was probably unnecessary, but I was pleased to speak out. I also know that many of you wanted news. Now I know what Dan really thinks about me, and I'm still trying to realize it. We used to get along very well with him. I've never been fond of football, but I've always followed Formula 1, which I know he also likes, and support the local rugby team, which, as I know, he likes very much. I'm confused. I thought we were friends. James perceives my sister as Her sister, she perceives him as a brother, she has always been socially anxious, so when I heard it from her for the first time, I burst into tears. And I also saw in Dan a brother whom I never had, and whom I always wanted to have. In those several times when we talked, we discussed sports, I could never think that he thought so about me. I really believed that we were brother and sister. I was never close to my father, so it was very nice to have a guy who loved the same sports, and he understood that sometimes I needed to explain something and was not angry about it. I really thought that we were friends. We watched the races together for hours, we talked for ages about our predictions for Max's match against Lewis. It's such bullshit. He helped me learn more about football, because I've always been interested in it, but I never knew anyone who liked him. I want to hit him on his stupid face. It's stopped by the fact that James is against, not even that I'm 162.5 centimeters, and Dan is 195.5. The fury boiling in me convinced me that I could still beat him, especially with a bat, especially if he doesn't expect it. P/P. What the hell am I supposed to do now? Of course, I need to think about the wedding, but I don't even want to wear a dress. I don't want a wedding at all anymore. If there is a wedding, Dan will participate in it. James and I have no idea what to say to our parents. It's also a problem. And what the hell should I do with Dan? I want to collect my cat's poop and throw it into the window of his bedroom, but I understand that this is wrong, even if Hermes has terribly smelly poop now. Maybe his name is a sign? Maybe Hermes is the messenger of poop? Speaking of Hermes, it's a pity that no one decorated my dress. I could easily cope with a lot of sparkles and radiance, so, my cat slept in a big cardboard box in which I keep Christmas decorations. I haven't decorated the Christmas tree yet, so my little idiot Hermes was covered with sequins for about 3 weeks, because, apparently, Christmas decorations are more convenient than fluffy beds, for which I obviously paid too much money. I managed to wash the blood off the white lace top, but I still can't wash off the glitter from my cat, still quite drunk and still don't know how to wash the sperm off the white dress for LL. The future brother-in-law came on my wedding dress. I haven't told my family yet, so the consequences are inevitable. You just need to know what the hell to say to them, and how to raise this topic in a conversation with the future brother-in-law. Added later, I think he knows I know what he did. He's standing at my front door. He's been there for about 15 minutes, he keeps ringing the door. He gave up. In total, he stayed there for about half an hour. I think he's drunk again. Me too, but I think I have a damn good excuse. I have a doorway, and I just saw him urinate on my flower bed and left. TC comments. In response to the fact that there may be another unexpected filling in the cheese, non-Dan is definitely a pathetic waste of oxygen. But please don't spoil my non-bread. This is one of the few good things I've tried. This is this 3.99 pound Chardonnay bottle, which is almost empty. I'll have to either ignore what Dan the sperm swallower did, a useless pussy sucker who likes to consume his own sperm regularly, often brags about how cool he is, but in fact a useless piece of shit. P/P, or raise this issue with my future mother-in-law and mother-in-law, that is, with the woman who became his main fan from the moment he started walking. In her eyes, he can't do anything wrong. I'm from Great Britain, and if I don't show external courtesy to my future brother-in-law, I'll be a creature in the eyes of others, and he, that is, his father-in-law, will most likely either completely renounce me or beat Dan half-death. Unfortunately, there is no intermediate option. I'm insanely angry. I want to destroy this little asshole. He did much more shit, which I kept silent about. So it's just a cherry sperm on the cake. The place and food were provided by the father-in-laws. I want to exclude Dan the self-suction from participation in the event, but I don't know how the father-in-laws will perceive this news. It seems that a wedding in the courthouse with our friends is the only way out. There is a good chance that we will be able to do it. Here's what was planned and what we will lose, most likely. My future relatives have friends who own an insanely beautiful estate and farm, so they provide food and a venue. My groom and I were going to stay in their guest bedroom, while my sister, his best men would have stayed in their renovated barn. Previously, this group of people included Dan. The wedding is mainly organized by friends and family. The ceremony was to take place in the local church, and the party was to take place at the family friend's farm with barbecues and bonfire. The biggest expense item is a dress, $215. I remind you p/p I'm currently thinking about whether it would be better to postpone the wedding for the reason of insert the reason here than to tell the truth. P.S. Now I'm drunk to death, don't blame me, blame Chardonnay and autocorrection. Dan is a cunt, I'm in a few glasses of Chardonnay from writing to his mom. I used to have an unhealthy weight loss, and it was a huge problem. I put a lot of effort to gain weight and at the same time stay healthy. Now I have the 16th size L, and my chest hurts so much in the back area that I'm saving money for a damn breast reduction. I really meant this when I said that I was cursed by genetics. My mother also had breast reduction surgery. I'm 157.5 centimeters tall, so, because of the big ass, I have to customize all the genes so that my thick ass and tiny legs look normal. I didn't want to seem boastful, because it's really not fun and not very attractive. I'm small and stocky, but I'm proud of it, so I may be a little overdoing the defense. Sorry for that. In short, the wedding is cancelled. James and I invite the closest family members and friends to the local town hall. We will get married modestly, as we originally wanted. And in a few weeks we will have a big party for everyone who wants to celebrate. Sister and mother-in-law sew me a new dress for the ceremony and party. It will be less traditional. I will wear a cape and a flower crown instead of a veil. And all this will not happen in the church, and my sister got engaged. Fortunately, nothing happened to my veil, which belonged to our mother, and I will give it to my sister. She loves and supports traditions very much, so I am very happy that she will go to the altar in our mother's veil. I enter the hall myself, usually accompanied by my father, less often other relatives. P/P. My sister conducts the ceremony. I live in a small village where everyone knows each other, so we have permission to take half an hour to do everything in the hall as we want. It's definitely better. My sister is a seamstress, so she sewed me a beautiful cape and helps my mother-in-law with the dress. I saw the sketches, and I'm so happy, so happy. In the new dress there will be everything I liked in the previous one, and even more. I don't know how to thank my loved ones. My father-in-law will get us a whole pig to roast it on a spit. My sister and I will make a cake, and I booked a place for the reception more than a year ago, so it will remain the same. The bonus is that we will get married earlier. We didn't pay for anything except the place of reception, bridesmaid dresses and flowers. The place was quite expensive, but since James' parents got married there, our parents shared the costs among themselves so that we could hold the ceremony wherever we wanted. It's very sentimental, and I'm so grateful that they did it for us. Anyway, let's get back to our unneutered ram. Our problem. James called Dan for a conversation last night. I wasn't there, I was with my parents. He asked his brother what he thought about the dress, and Dan immediately asked, "Is Callie sure she wants to marry you? There are better options." James asked if he knew anything about the stain, and Dan couldn't hold back his laughter. He thought it was hilarious. He found it funny that James and I were angry, apparently. For him it means that I'm a low-value female used in relation to a woman who is narcissistic, stupid, selfish and self-centered. It's believed that this is the type of women to be avoided and from whom you need to run away. P/N. Presumably it was a test to find out what I value more, a dress or marriage. Obviously, marriage is more dear to me, but since I was upset about the dress, Dan decided that it meant that I was more focused on appearance. I don't know everything that happened, but Dan was kicked out of our house. I heard part of the conversation through the door camera. Everything was broadcast on the phone. That's when I heard a low-quality female. Dan said that James is a loser who has never been attractive and did not make an effort to improve his body, so he doesn't deserve me. Dan got furious when he found out that I don't make an effort to improve my physical shape either. In the end, my sister took away my phone so that I wouldn't worry about it, because I watched it all on camera. Then she sat me down, fed me chocolate and gin, and we watched like cool legs. My future relatives were informed about everything by James. I was not familiar with what was said there, but since then I have received messages from both of them. Mother-in-law is humiliated. She was always Dan's biggest fan. At first she thought it was a mistake, but when she was shown a literal confession of what he had done on camera, she felt terrible. I feel very sorry for her. Dan has always been her little boy, who was engaged in his favorite sport and was the pride of their hometown, where they still live. Mother-in-law said that she would be happy to pay the cost of the dress and help my sister sew a new one. She sewed herself a wedding dress, and it was beautiful, so I'm even glad that everything worked out that way. But I can't accept her offer to pay for the dress. no matter how upset I am about the price, it's not her fault. $215, fuck, expensive. Father-in-law hates technology, so I was just stunned when I got a message from him. Usually he either calls or comes in person. I think James told him that I wasn't ready to talk about it face to face. Father-in-law said that because of what happened, he considers me more of his child than Dan. He's disgusted that his own son could do something like that. He didn't raise him that. Father-in-law is the worst versed in technology and asked me to block Dan's number on his phone at our next personal meeting. I won't lie. I shed a few tears. I'll spend Christmas with my parents. And on the 27th I'll visit James and his family, and then I'll stay with them until the 1st. Dan was cut off from his parents and brother. He was not invited to Christmas and New Year's Eve, until he apologizes and undergoes a course of therapy. His parents will not talk to him. They said they would pay for his therapy, but I don't know how he reacted to it and what was there in general. The in-laws offered to pay for the wedding security, but we changed the place and date. In addition, we told almost everyone why. Some people did not believe us, as did some of you, which is quite understandable. To those to whom we did not tell the truth, we told that a serious event happened, and we are worried about our safety, so we will minimize the event itself. In addition, according to my last edit in the previous post, Dan peed on my flowers that night. He did not return to my doorstep after talking to James, but if Dan comes back and makes a scene, the police will be called. I saved all the recordings from the front door camera, screenshots of text conversations and photos of the dress. Everything is documented with timestamps. If Dan decides to try to do something, the police will deal with him. I'm also going to dig up my flowers and replace them, most likely with catnip or something like that, because Hermes deserves nice things. He was always very calm about bees, so I'll plant it too. Lavender, because we need to save the bees. I plan to write to the women Dan is talking to now. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I can't live with the realization that someone else may suffer because of him. If someone has advice on what to say, I'll be very grateful. Anyway, I'm going to hug James and Hermes and eat a lot of chocolate, because now I don't have a dress that I have to fit in. He. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. With love, Callie, James and Hermes, which is still covered with sequins.